Hey guys, Jake here. Got another review for you. Today we are talking about the Uplink from MVP Discs. The Uplink is MVP's latest understable mid-range. If you saw my most recent review, the Paradox has also come out recently, but that is a very, very understable mid-range. This is a little bit more into that normal understable mid-range line. The kind of shot you're gonna get from this is, throw it flat and hard and get a nice turnover and just kind of drift to the right, or hyzer flips in the woods kinds of shots like that. So about what you'd expect from a normal understable mid-range. If we think about the numbers here, it's a 5.5 minus 3, 0.5. So speed and glide 5.5, that's fine. It's a mid-range, feels about right. It's about average glide, maybe slightly above. No issue there. The minus 3 is maybe a bit much. I think this is probably closer to a minus 2. Even after beating these in a little bit, they still have not gotten to the point where they're like rolling on me. That minus 3 really feels like it's getting into that paradox territory. So I'd probably say a minus 2. The 0.5 fade, that's perfect. It doesn't fade much, just enough to pan out from like a Big Annie or something like that. If you've ever thrown, the disc that I always want to compare it to is a Mako 3. So if you've ever thrown one of those, it feels like a slightly faster and further flying, maybe a hair more understable Mako 3. As far as the ones that I've thrown, I threw a Champion Plastic Mako 3 for a while, and that's the most similar disc that I've found to this. It comes in two different plastics, currently Neutron and Neutron Soft. So if you want the pliable plastic, a little bit grippier, and also really nice for if you're throwing these on hyzer flips to the woods. If this hits a tree, it's less likely to ricochet off, go flying deep into the woods. It's probably going to kind of hit taco and land. So really nice for that. There's not a real noticeable difference between the two. If anything, this Neutron Soft is just a tick more overstable, but I mean, unless you're throwing them side by side, the difference is so subtle you'll never even notice. The other thing I would note is the hand feel. These I was expecting after the Reactor and the Hex came out and they announced the Uplink, I was kind of expecting it to be a similar feel since those two are very similar in the hand. This has actually got a little bit more of a dome or a shoulder to it. It's clearly not a domey disc, but compared to the other two, who are very, very flat discs, it was just very different. And the hand feel at first I was not a big fan of. So this is just a little bit different feel than the others, but it is, something you can get over pretty quickly. And yeah, it just flies so nicely that it's really not a big deal. But it was not my favorite hand feel to begin with. For those, I guess, just a random history lesson here. For those who aren't familiar, MVP used to have a bunch of mid-ranges, including some understable ones. But when they moved from their old shared facility with the plastics company that they started with into their own facility and had their own machines and all that, the molds they were using didn't work for some reason or another, and so they decided to retire a whole bunch of discs and molds, which included most of their mid-range lineup. So we're now seeing things like the Reactor, the Hex, and the Paradox, and all these discs that have been coming out in the mid-range line are there to replace those discs that went out of production. So a lot of people have been waiting for these discs for a while, and so it's really nice to finally get these. And I feel like this is just a really nice offering for that middle ground between a Hex and a Paradox. I'd still like to see one more disc, maybe a touch more overstable than this, but a little bit more understable than the Hex. I feel like there's a little bit of a gap there still. Maybe the Echo will do that. I threw one of those in a circuit challenge, but they haven't come out officially yet, and that was in Cosmic Neutron. We'll see if it stays as stable as it was then, because that flew a lot like a Hex. But theoretically, I think that one, the numbers are supposed to put it between the Hex and this, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's pretty much what this disc is. As far as what I'm going to use it for, we'll do some footage here, and I can show off some of these shots. But the main uses I have with this are either you're throwing it sort of hard and flat and just letting it turn over for shots that need to kind of finish right. For me, in that 280 to 330 range. I throw about 400 feet maximum power for context. So for me, throwing a mid-range at that range, it kind of flies straight and turns and just kind of holds it, doesn't roll or anything like that. And also hyzer flips, like I mentioned, through the woods. If you want just a straight shot, these things, you can hit them hard on hyzer and they'll just flip up to flat and ride straight. Another really popular shot that I use it for is just big annies around corners, because this will hold that annie line really, really well, and it doesn't flex out too fast. It'll just kind of hold it and pan slowly, so you can get a lot of movement to the right before you get to the ground. So very nice for that. And also, if you just power down on them and throw them sort of straight, they don't really turn, and they have very limited fade. So they're just very nice for straight shots through gaps if you don't want to go full power. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, one honorable mention. This is just recently with me more than anything, but thumbers. I really like this disc for thumbers, and I have found there's a particular hole at the course that I play that I always end up stuck off in these woods over on the left. It's been a thing for the last few months. And the only shot out of there is either pitching directly right back to the fairway, or there's a little gap that you can throw through that's perfect for a thumber. And I randomly grabbed my uplink, and the first time I went over there, and have been doing this over and over ever since. It's just a nice quick flip. Gets me out to the fairway, off to the right, a little forward progress. I just really have enjoyed it for thumbers, which is not a shot that I would normally have thrown. So if that's your shot and you want something understable, this one seems to work for me. The low power throwers, this disc is going to be pretty straight for you. High power throwers, you're probably going to want to look closer to a hex, probably. I'm guessing this is going to be a little too flippy for you. Maybe you could use it as a sort of a utility thing in the way that I use a Paradox. Yeah, so if you are looking for an understable mid-range, maybe give the Uplink a try. It's a very nice disc. I really, really have been enjoying it. Yeah, other than that, hope you have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next one.